So this is Stuart's first project. This is his first commercial real estate project. He actually bought it while he was in the class. He actually got this deal done halfway through the class. So he applied the techniques that he learned in class and went ahead and put this deal together. Stuart's going to give us just a quick tour of the facility and also tell us a little bit about how he put this deal together. So let's go inside and hear what Stuart has to say. This is really cool. I've never actually been inside. Stuart shared some pictures with us when he was taking the class. And like I said, he put this deal together about halfway through the commercial class we did a couple of summers ago. And this is my first time actually seeing what he actually does and actually seeing his facility. Very nice. Very, very nice. Hi. Sherman Ragland. I'm here to see Stuart Dukemann. Sherman Ragland. From Real Investors. Thanks. Very cool. This is really cool. I love what he's done. Love the granite. Okay, thank you. It's actually not even real granite, but it looks really nice. So basically, well, I'll let Stuart tell you in his own words. But hey, Stuart.
How are you?
Good, good, good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
See you.
So this is it, huh?
This is it.
This
One
is
of them,
way,
anyway.
One of them. All right, this is way cool. So really appreciate your taking some time out of your day. I know you're really, really busy. But I think what would be really helpful to the folks who are also going to take the commercial class like you took a couple years ago, if you could just sort of explain a couple things. Number one, the business you're in, what you do. And number two, how you were able to use your business as a tool to actually go out and put together some commercial real estate deals. And if I recall correctly, when you were in class, you actually put together 2 or 3 deals?
We'll go through them. We flipped a couple and ended up with this one.
Right,
and,
right.
We did another one down in Roanoke, and we had already done one in Richmond.
Right, right.
So,
very, very cool.
Why don't you come on in?
All right, thanks. So Stuart, just sort of for the folks who are watching this, tell us a little bit about your business, what you do,
sure.
And what was the decision that led to you deciding to go ahead and get an office building?
Sure. Well, Sherman, for 21 years now, I've been in the temporary staffing business.
Okay.
We provide jobs for people, but more importantly to us, we provide a service to our customers primarily in the construction and industrial type companies where we have workers that report to us on a daily basis, and then we send them out to those companies and charge an hourly fee.
Gotcha.
So over the years, we've expanded, and we have 10 locations throughout Virginia and Maryland, and up until about 2 years ago, we've been paying rent at all of those locations. So you can imagine the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've spent, if not over $1 million, in the last 18 years,
right,
paying rent to somebody else and watching them get rich. In fact, most of the locations we've been in for 15, 20 years.
Wow.
So we know we've paid off a mortgage or two for somebody else. But, as our business matured and cash flow started to build up, we recognized that there was an opportunity, but nobody knew what the heck they were doing. I had been involved in some residential real estate training,
right,
and started to apply that to the commercial side. Took your commercial class, and was motivated enough, felt comfortable enough to know the lingo, and start looking for buildings on my own.
Great.
As you know, I've had my realtor's license, so I was able to act as the agent for a couple of deals that we've done, and in doing so, earned a commission, put the buildings in an LLC that now we rent back to ourselves.
Excellent.
So it makes perfect sense. So we are now the landlord that's being paid by our business.
Excellent. Excellent. You are the poster child.
We are there.
Excellent. So just a couple quick questions. So for people who are watching this, learning about what you do, you are basically in the sort of a very niched part of the temporary staffing where you're providing laborers, sort of like day laborers.
We provide day laborers.
Okay, to the construction industry.
Yes.
Okay.
Almost all of our workers report in daily. Our offices are open at 5:30 in the morning. About 80% of them know that they're on an assignment already, but the other 20% don't, and they're coming here looking for work each day.
So that's a very fluid.
Very fluid. From 6 in the morning till 9 in the morning, very busy, very dispatch environment, and then they're all coming back in the afternoon to get paid. So very cash-intensive business. So we're paying daily and invoicing our customer on a weekly basis.
Wow.
And waiting to get paid. So, fluid business. A lot of people coming through the door
right.
on a regular basis, and facility-wise, typical for us is about 1,600 square feet. In this particular building, we were able to take advantage of the additional floor and move my corporate office to here. So we were able to combine 2 rental locations into one owned building.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So just a classic case study of how to leverage the business to buy real estate. And you said you actually put the commercial real estate in an LLC, just like we teach. So therefore, you really have sort of a separate business that owns the real estate, but your core business, which is your staffing company, is the one that's actually writing the rent check.
Well, we like to now think that we're in the real estate business, and we now have companies that support our real estate business by paying rent to them.
Very cool. Now, as you know, that's exactly the revelation that Ray Kroc went through. Ray Kroc, of course, was the guy who didn't found McDonald's. He actually bought the concept and bought the name away from the McDonald's brothers. And then for the first 5-6 years of the existence of McDonald's, they thought they were in the hamburger business, and then they too went through that same revelation of going, wait a minute, the value is really in the real estate, and we can use all these hamburgers we're selling to help pay for the rent, pay for acquisition. So very smart, very astute on your part. So talk to me a little bit about, or talk to us a little bit about, how has owning a building helped with the core business? Is it sort of like 2 completely different things, or has it actually helped you in some respects?
It has helped tremendously, and the unfortunate side of our business is that we are dealing with construction day labor, and we don't always make the best neighbors because we're open early. We have a lot of people coming through, a lot of guys that pull up in their cars in the morning with, at 5:30 in the morning with the music blaring and so forth, and a lot of them arrive earlier than we do because they think it's a first come first serve, which it's not.
Gotcha.
But they tend to, they arrive earlier, hoping that they'll get an opportunity to go to work. So we don't always make the best neighbors in that respect. So typically we would have to locate in somebody else's building, number one, but more typically tend to be a strip center or something along those lines, where now we've been able to acquire freestanding buildings where we control the lot, we control the complaints, we control our relationship with our neighbors rather than a landlord. And it's just worked out for the better, because everywhere where we own a building, we have no issues.
Gotcha.
Being a property owner gives you a lot more credibility with your neighbors than being a tenant.
Just a tenant, right?
As a tenant.
Very cool.
So it's made a significant difference in that.
Very cool. And I noticed, like, some of the things that you're doing in terms of your marketing. You've got your vans parked out front. You've got signage on the building. I suspect if you wanted to, you might even be able to wrap the building. But as a building owner, as a property owner, I would think that you can be a little more aggressive in your marketing in terms of this kind of marketing, this part of the marketing.
We can. We've been able to do some things. We haven't done so much at this location, but for example, the van that you mentioned, it's a cheap billboard. The van was wrapped once at a cost of $3,500 and sits every day with probably about 70,000 cars passing by it.
Wow.
Sitting out front.
Yeah, and if you were to go get a billboard, you'd pay probably double that for just 1 month.
For just 1 month, right.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. So when you were in class, I remember that this was sort of like your first deal, but you actually had like 2 or 3 deals going before the class was over. I think one of which you flipped.
We did.
Okay.
The way we acquired this building, we had purchased a foreclosure home that was in a industrial zoned area.
Right.
So kind of a mix of a street, but the house was about 100 years old, and our intention was to tear it down. And we purchased it for, I believe, about $80,000. Immediately, we received an offer from the next door neighbor who owned a commercial building,
right.
And we were able to sell the property for $109,000 about 3.5 weeks after we purchased
Sweet.
it. And we used that money, obviously. We 1031'd it into a portion of the down payment on this building. So, again, as the agent, I was able to receive commission on the first purchase of the building. I didn't do a commission on the resale of it, and then this one. So just by being an agent, I was able to put about $16,000 in my pocket. Nice. Out of both transactions. Nice. In addition to the money that was made off the building purchases. So it all worked out. We bought this. This was a foreclosure building. We purchased it for about $460,000. It was previously a physician's office, so it was all cut up. We ended up doing a complete gutting of the building on both floors. The only thing that's existing is the brick on the exterior of the building. Everything else is brand new, including all the systems, all the plumbing, everything that you've seen. It was about a $200,000 renovation, but we got to build it to exactly what we wanted.
Right.
We received a huge tax break from the city of Manassas because we were renovating a building that was over 30 years old, and they had a program that they had just started. In fact, we were the first person to apply under that program in 2010. So they didn't even know how to handle the tax break on it.
Right.
But we estimate the tax break over this 10-year lifespan of the program will be about $70,000.
Sweet. And I got to tell you, Stuart, I am incredibly proud of you for a couple of different reasons. First of all, because you came to the class and you immediately took action. You know, some people take classes and they sort of go, I got to think about it, you know. And you got in there and you said, geez, you know, this could make a difference. And you just sort of like put the pedal to the metal and took action. So that's the first reason why I'm very, very proud of you. The second is, a lot of people don't realize it just listening to you, but sort of the backstory. You're making this happen. You're in the class summer 2009. You're putting this deal together 2009, 2010. Here we are, 2011. A lot of people don't realize those were some of the worst years ever for your core business, finding day labor for construction. And there's a whole lot of people who would just find it just as easy to go have a pity party about the fact that their business is suffering, and you like, I don't care. I mean, you sort of tell us what was going on. Tell us a little bit more of the backstory about all that during that period of time that you're doing all this deal making.
Sure. Well, it's no surprise the construction industry is taking its hits. But, you know, the same direction with the real estate where you just have to take action. You know, we've been doing this for at that time, 19, 20 years. And, you know, you can't just sit back. You can't sit back and watch your business go under. You can't sit back and watch everybody else around you fail. You have to take some action on your own. And, you know, I'm happy to say that 2010 was actually our best year ever.
Wow.
So in spite of the construction industry, we diversified a little bit. We were able to expand our business into a couple other markets that were able to kind of hold us over. And, you know, construction will rebound one day. We took advantage of it in the sense of building values and things like that. We put some pressure on the places that we're still renting from to lower some rents and things like that. But I'm also proud to say that we're part of a franchise that has what started out as 300 locations in early 2009, which is now down to 200 locations as a result of the economy, and I'm coming off my best year ever. Wow. So I appreciate it, and you know, we'll take those kudos anytime. So.
Well, you earned it. You certainly earned it. And that's the bottom line is, I mean, as a teacher, I can share information. As a mentor, I can share advice. But at the end of the day, the student has to like say, come hell or high water, I'm doing it. And that's exactly what you did. You just said, I'm doing it no matter what.
Well, you know, the class, for me, I came in with some knowledge, but the class helps you with the lingo. And that's what made the difference for me, because it gives you the courage to go and talk the talk. And once you start talking the talk, you realize that you know more than they do most of the time. And, you know, in this particular case, this was a transaction with a realtor who was non-responsive. The bank actually kind of got involved directly, and because the realtor was non-responsive, and we just pushed through it. And I believe that the bank was responsive because it sounded as if I knew what I was talking about.
Gotcha.
And when I didn't know what I was talking about, I made my way through it and asked questions later, and it worked out great.
Well, it's one of the things that I say it, but it's hard to sort of like have that revelation until you have that revelation. But truly, one of the great things about these small-scale commercial deals, these Sherman deals, is oftentimes they're out of reach, out of range for the typical traditional residential real estate agent. And oftentimes, the traditional residential real estate agent will have something like this thrown in their lap, but they really don't know what they're doing. And by the same token, the more sophisticated commercial brokers tend not to want to deal with properties underneath, $3, $4, $5 million because they see that as, well, that's too small, I don't want to get involved with it. So you come in as somebody who's got a lot of business knowledge about your core business, and you've got the class, the commercial property class that we taught under your belt, and like you said, the lingo. you really do know more than a lot of the players who are involved in the transaction, because a lot of the big boys are staying away from these size deals, and a lot of the residential real estate agents, this is really beyond their grasp, beyond their concept.
Right. Yeah, on the commercial side, 1,500 to 2,000 square foot buildings are rare and small and almost annoying for a commercial broker who's used to multi-million dollar deals.
Right.
We kind of view that as a benefit because they're just happy to move them through. And when the biggest issue that we found is asking for an additional $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 off the price isn't a shocker like it is in the residential market.
Gotcha.
Even though you're talking about similar percentages of the sales price, those numbers aren't shocking to a commercial broker. We purchased a building in Roanoke that was riddled with some issues related to zoning, and the ability to negotiate a contract that didn't get tied up with all the residential features. That was our experience, and just ask. And you'll be surprised at what they paid for. The seller in that situation paid for our legal fees to change the zoning as part of the condition of the contract. It was a great deal for us and a great deal for them. It was a win-win situation. Being the tenant also allows us to be a little bit more flexible on the price. We don't have to have that huge instant equity position coming in.
Right.
So we were able to tailor, our negotiations with some type of winning proposal for the seller as well. In fact, in the Roanoke building, we received 100% financing.
Sweet.
Because the existing mortgage banker contacted us and said, "Hey, you're buying the building. I'm interested in writing the mortgage for you, and we've got a great deal if you're going to own or occupy." And I drove down to Roanoke, met with her the next week, and 100% financing was thrown at us.
Key words: owner occupied.
Owner occupied.
When you own the business and the business is buying the real estate, you get some special bennies and some special treatment that you don't get if you're just coming off the street as a quote-unquote normal everyday real estate investor.
Absolutely.
So very smart to parlay that.
In addition, in this building, owner-occupied played a role, not so much in the percentage of financing, but it played a percentage in how the financing worked. They were able to offer 80% of the assessed value only because it was an owner-occupied program.
Gotcha.
So the building value was less at the time because of the condition, but the assessed value was higher. And they were able to just pull the assessment without an appraisal as long as it was under $500,000, and they were able to grant the loan very, very easily. No appraisal costs, no anything needed.
Excellent. So now the Roanoke building, is that larger or smaller than this one?
The Roanoke building is a little bit smaller. It's a single level.
Okay.
But it sits on a larger piece of land.
Gotcha. So some real upside opportunity down the road.
Upside opportunity. We've got some additional space that we could sublease. We've opted not to for now.
Right.
But we've got some opportunity there. In fact, that building we only spent about $5,000 to renovate to move right in.
Cool. So has being able to own real estate for some of your locations helped to sort of stabilize the business? Because I thought I heard you say you were this space here was you were originally in 2 different leased locations.
This space here definitely has helped us to stabilize. The city of Manassas is a difficult place for us to locate just because of the types of locations. And we were downtown, kind of on the main street, the Old Town Main Street area.
Okay.
And going back to what I said earlier about 100 people coming in every morning,
right.
that was tough on Main Street. You weren't necessarily liked by the card and gift shop down the street and things like that. And nobody has a problem with a company that sends people to work, but they don't want them in their backyard is ultimately what had happened. And they felt like we'd be better suited in an industrial area. So when our lease was up many years ago there, we moved to an industrial street, which was fine operationally, but you don't receive any exposure.
Gotcha.
So you're not benefiting from the van sitting out front and things along those lines.
Right.
So by moving here, a couple of things happened. We moved out of the historical section, which eliminated a lot of issues for us, and moved on to literally a major highway.
Yeah.
And now we get great exposure. So
is it about 70,000 cars a day, is what you're saying?
It's approximate.
That's a hell of a good number.
It's a good number.
That's and at the point in time where, let's say that you either decide to go in a different direction, get out of the business, or your business just explodes when the market comes back,
Sure.
and you outgrow this. this is going to be one heck of a location for...
Well, we definitely had that in mind when we looked at this particular property. Initially, it was only zoned for 8 parking spaces. It was painted off for 20. So we made the argument with the city, and we found the engineer that did the original parking study, and he said, no, I've got it as 20. All I have to do is turn it into the city. So we increased value of the building by just doing a little bit of research, because on the city's records, 8 parking spaces is very different than 20.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're dealing with office building space where this could be converted into anything,
right.
This building could easily house 20, 30 people in cubicles and things of that nature. So having 20 parking spaces is clearly a big plus.
On top of which, if you ever did decide, I mean, I don't know what the zoning is, but I'm also seeing a really cool boutique for somebody who needed some kind of a showroom.
Sure.
And the fact that you would have 20 parking spaces now, that just changes the whole dynamic in terms of your exit strategy.
And as far as if you modify the exterior of the building, then you'd fall under the new grandfathered or the new building codes for parking and things of that nature. But by not changing the exterior, other than cosmetic issues on the exterior, we were able to grandfather in the parking as it was, and we were able to grandfather in the size of the building on the lot, things like that. So buying a building that had a 40-year-old shell, which was it's brick, so there's not much to it.
Right.
Was in the bones were good.
Right.
And the inside just needed new lipstick.
Well, and that brings me to sort of the third point. I said there's 3 things I was really proud of. You have really created a whole new business for yourself as now a commercial real estate investor. I mean, yeah, you've got the real estate license, but I didn't hear you say you want to go out and represent a bunch of... Okay, so it's really sort of to have an inside track and inside knowledge. What do you see the future looking like? You've got 2 commercial deals under your belt now since the class.
We've got 3 buildings so far.
Okay.
We've got 7 more locations that we're pursuing at any given time in Virginia and Maryland, and we've got another 3 locations down in South Florida that we're looking.
Nice.
So, the ultimate goal would be to have 13 buildings and 15, 20 years from now have a very nice residual income from those buildings.
Very cool. So you literally are the living embodiment of really sort of what Robert Kiyosaki talks about in the whole Rich Dad Poor Dad series of, Rich Dad talked about grow a business, use the business to buy real estate. Unfortunately, in Rich Dad Poor Dad, he doesn't tell you how to do it.
Right.
Great operating philosophy, great big idea, but he really doesn't tell you in his books how to specifically grow a business and then translate the growth of that business into acquisition of real estate. And you've done that through not only your own knowledge of your own business and your own knowledge of residential real estate, like you said, which you had even before you walked in the door, but you've now applied this additional piece that you got from coming to the commercial property class and say, okay, here's how to flip the switch.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was I have partners in the staffing business, and taking the classes and especially the commercial class allowed me to give them the confidence to let me take the lead on it. And I mean, none of us knew anything about real estate, especially commercial real estate, prior to that. And when I first got involved in real estate, buying our own buildings was never even a thought. It was me personally. It was outside of my staffing company, looking to acquire. The whole fix and flip thing. That was what I was thinking I was getting involved in.
Right.
But I discovered a couple of things. Number 1, I don't have time to fix and flip.
Right. You got a full-time business.
Right. Number 2, I'm not a very good landlord.
Okay.
And I'm not ashamed to admit that. It's not my thing. And I've dealt with some property managers. It's just not for me.
Right.
Not when I can be my own tenant. That to me was the better business model. So I'm proud to say that as a result of doing the commercial deals, I've sold off the residential properties that I've had, and I no longer am a residential landlord, and this is the focus going forward.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, you're literally going to wake up one day, which is an enviable position. You're literally going to be able to wake up one day and you're going to have a high-quality day labor franchise business, and you're going to have a portfolio of commercial real estate deals that are in killer locations that even if you decided, hey, we're going to relocate the labor business, you're still going to be able to find tenants to come back. And you're going to wake up one day in a very enviable position of saying, you know what, I've loved this day labor business for X number of years, but I've decided I don't want to do this anymore. And you're going to have choices.
Okay.
And not every person, certainly people who have jobs, and not even everybody who owns a small business, can honestly look in the mirror and say, you know what, today's the day that I'm stepping out of this business and I'm just going to enjoy the fruits of being full-time portfolio, small-scale commercial portfolio, Sherman Deal portfolio owner.
Sure.
And that's how I'm going to live my life from here on out.
Well, I do have that. Not everybody that's watching this is going to necessarily have their own business that they can become their tenant. And, I know I've had a lot of people say to me, well, you have a business and that makes it easy. Well, yes, that makes it a little bit easier. It was easier because we knew what we were looking for. But I attended a 2-hour session that the city of Manassas put on prior to buying this building that was geared towards business owners that wanted to purchase their own property so that they could house their business. I was the only realtor in the room.
Wow.
Some realtors just don't put themselves in a position to partner with other businesses, and I wasn't there for the purpose of being a realtor. It just so happened that I was the only realtor in the room.
Right.
And it gave me the opportunity to talk to some of those folks who really didn't understand the real estate side of investing.
Right.
And potentially create some partnerships so that I could have a business to put into a building. And I didn't end up doing anything with that particular group, but it made me realize that, and we had talked about that in the class, that if you don't have your own business, go find somebody that does that's paying rent. Because every business owner understands that rent is a waste of money.
I am so glad you said that.
So
I am so glad, because you're absolutely correct. There are people who are going to be watching this going, well, gee, that's easy for Stuart to say because he had a business that would have been a successful business for 20 years. And here I am, just sort of a lowly real estate agent who's taken the 60 hours, got my license. And if people really sit and listen to everything you have just said over the past 10, 15 minutes, there's an incredible amount of wisdom. Number one, you and your partners made the decision to go forward in confidence because you took the additional step. And I would imagine it was sacrifice because, while you're sitting in those classes, you're not running your business.
Sure.
Right? And so you're making the sacrifice of giving up a Saturday, giving up some time in between the Saturday classes to work with your team, because we put you in teams like we did with the apprentice program, to really get your teeth into this commercial business, the lingo, and you're sacrificing. But when you came out of that experience, you were able to look your partners in the eye, your business partners in the labor business, and say, guys, we can do this. And what a lot of people who are watching this may not realize is, look, if you are a real estate professional, whether you have a license or don't have a license, but you hold yourself out as a real estate investor, a real investor, you have the capacity to go hook up with other people who do own businesses.
And who have the money.
And who have the money, right? And are willing to sign on the line for the loan that may need to be incurred. And like you said, a lot of business owners understand the fact that every single month that they're writing a check for rent, it's money down the toilet. They just don't know what to do about it. And if you do know what to do about it, you can get in a partnership with them, just like you've done, to specifically own the real estate with the understanding that the business will be the one that moves in as the tenant and pays the mortgage. And in many cases, people find out, I don't know if this is true for you, the amount of money you pay for a mortgage is oftentimes less, sometimes dramatically less than what you're paying in rent.
In our case in this building, it was absolutely less.
Yeah.
Of course, we control the rent. But I say that not in the sense that we control it to be less.
Yeah.
We can control it to be more.
Right.
So with that in mind, we made sure that we were able to secure a 15-year mortgage, and it's covered.
Right.
It's triple net.
There you go.
To our tenant. And
which really sort of makes it easy for everybody, because oftentimes if you're operating a business and you're paying rent, you're paying a triple net rent, and you really sort of know what your operating costs are, because it's okay. I'm paying the rent check, I'm paying the electric bill, utility bill, the share of the real estate taxes. So why not, when you set up your LLC that owns the building, why not go ahead and do it the same way? And it just makes it easy for everybody to understand what the deal is.
We basically did what every landlord for the last 20 years did to us.
All right, well, it sounds like you've got some other stuff that you got to do. I really appreciate you, Stuart, you taking time to let us come into the space, see the space. I'm really excited about what you guys did here. This is very, very, very cool. And again, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's not, and it's refreshing, again, as the guy who was standing at the front of the class, because it's not every person who comes into the classroom and says, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity and use this information and do something with it. And the fact that you did something with it, and now here you are on your third property, well, actually your fourth deal, because you flipped one, used the proceeds from the flip to make the down payment here, but now you're on your third building, and you've already got a plan in place to sort of replicate this out, almost cookie cutter it out, and wake up one day with a portfolio of 10, 15, 20 properties that are just going to have killer cash flow. And like I said, one day you wake up and say, okay, guys, we're out of this business, but I still got the real estate, and that's mine to keep. And that's very, very, very cool.
You've hit the nail on the head.
You're the man.